I've been meaning to talk about the Israel-Hamas atrocities, the war, the horribleness going on in that part of the world. Hamas, as we know, sent terrorists and murderers into Israel and killed a bunch of innocent civilians in an act of not just terror and cowardliness, but one that they knew full well would blow back on their own people, their own civilians. It's anyone who isn't condemning the attack by Hamas on civilians or is hiding behind some sort of free Palestine bullshit is a monster, frankly. I'm sorry, there are some views that you just simply can't hold without being a son of a bitch. And if you believe that acts of terror and murder of innocent people are okay, then you're pretty much you're a shitty person and you should shut the fuck up. The response from Israel is also shitty. I mean, this cycle of violence isn't great, right? Killing countless civilians in retaliation, which is exactly what Hamas knew would happen, is not great. Now, Israel's in a terrible position because they have to do something as a response to this, but obviously just attacking Gaza and killing kids and killing old people and women and men who are not part of Hamas is obviously also terrible. And again, I don't think it's defensible. Even though I do think that Israel had to respond in some way. Now, what is that way? That's okay, this is the problem here. This is the problem we keep running into. What is the answer to the Israel-Palestine question, the problem posed here? And there's not an easy answer. There's just not. Some form of two-state solution, I guess. The Arab countries in the region could also absorb Palestine in some way or another. They could be part of the solution and have refused to do that. Israeli hardliners have been, and the sort of zealots and the settlers have not been helping either. What we see is a lot of radical people on both sides doing things that make a solution, a peaceful solution, very difficult. And frankly, I'm kind of fucking sick of it. I'm kind of sick of it, of the whole thing. I'm sick of this conflict. I'm sick of the Middle East. I'm sick of all the bullshit that comes out of the Middle East. I'm sick of holy wars being fought over fucking land half a world away. It's not my business. But it spills over into our lives with the 9/11 attacks and Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda. And then off we are fighting wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, where we just we shouldn't be there. We shouldn't have anything to do with it. Again, I do support Israel's right to exist. I think that after the Jewish diaspora, countless centuries ago, clearly wherever the Jews went, they were not welcomed very nicely by people. And I think that's horrible. I think anti-Semitism is horrible. I've said this. I've seen other people say this actually recently. It was funny because I was just talking about it. I wish we'd given them Nebraska or something. Part of Nebraska or whatever. Just some Georgia. I don't know, Florida, Tennessee, Iowa, a big chunk of eastern Montana, maybe. Of course, anti-Semitism was still pretty strong in the West, even outside of Germany, even in Britain and America during World War II, and until I think the Holocaust, and people had a pretty eye-opening moment there. We had a lot of, and there still is anti-Semitism here, obviously. But it would have been such a better place than the Middle East for the Jewish state. I just think that at a certain point, we only intervene if it's absolutely necessary. What we say and do here is really, we are America, and first and foremost, that's our business. Our business is not Palestine or Israel or the Middle East. We shouldn't be involved in wars over there. We shouldn't pretend that our opinions matter that much. We should do what we can to support a peaceful outcome, but I'm not optimistic about it. Frankly, I'm not optimistic about a peaceful outcome. I'm not optimistic about the sincerity or the willingness of either side or the other neighboring nations to come together and actually come up with some feasible solution and win-win situation for everybody. I just don't see it happening. Countries like Jordan, Egypt, etc. They like having Israel around to keep people pissed off at Israel, so they're not pissed off at their own shitty governments and their own dictatorships and their own bullshit and oppression. So they're not going to help solve anything. They're not going to help the Palestinians. They're just going to use them as martyrs. And Israel's going to keep rising to the occasion and answering every aggression with 10 times as much violence in return. And I don't think that's good or moral or right, but that's the way it's going to be. And until somebody can get their shit together and come up with a democratic, peaceful solution. And until then, we're going to have to deal with all this extremism and holy war bullshit and all of these attitudes straight out of the Middle Ages. And frankly, yeah, I'm just over it. Fuck right off. Get your shit together. At this point, get your shit together. And of course, I support a peaceful solution. And of course, I do not want to see the violence and the chaos and the killing of civilians and the terrorism and the overwhelming military response to that terrorism. I just think it's all so sad and awful. And I just don't think we can really do much about it at this point. I mean, we've been trying for decades and it doesn't go anywhere. So, I don't know. What do you think? Shout out in the comments. Let me know. I know this is a little off kilter from all our other stuff, but I felt like this was such a big deal, such a big geopolitical deal, that I should say something about it. And yeah, that's all. I have some other videos in the works as well, so stay tuned for that. Lighter stuff, like talking about the second season of The Wheel of Time. And yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. Peace.